stage, lots and lots and lots of flowers. The hummingbirds love them. Some of them have beautiful foliage. Got some of the different fennels and dill and things like that. Can be just gorgeous in flower beds. So don't feel like you have to set aside a given area to have an herb garden, because there are an awful lot of those things do very, very well in the landscape as a whole. Yes, ma'am?
What were the plants for between stepping stones that you mentioned?
I want to talk about stepping stones in just a second, because we're going to sort of get into...
I meant the herbs you just mentioned.
Oh, herbs I mentioned were thyme, oregano. I love the different mints, peppermint, spearmint, and orange mint. All the different herbs are very good. Chocolate mint, and those are a few. One thing, and I guess I'll just go ahead and talk about that, since the main thing we're going to cover today is a little bit about carrying out your plan once you've got it drawn up. But if you have either stepping stones or square pavers or things like that, and you're looking to plant plants in between these bricks, probably the most important thing, and one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is they fill that area all the way up to the top. If you're going to plant between stones or between bricks, leave your soil or your sand or whatever, leave it down about this far. Because if you fill it all the way up and then you plant your little plants in there or whatever, and you walk on it, you will wear things off at ground level, and that will kill them. If you plant them so the top of the plant is about this far down below the top of the stone, you can walk back and forth it constantly. You'll wear the top of the plant off, but it'll keep coming back again and again and again from the crown of the plant, which is down below the surface, so that it's protected from that constant wear. Does that make sense? That's one of the big mistakes that people make, and you can create an absolutely beautiful patio or walkway or things like that with plants in between the stones. But again, remember to leave them sort of recessed down below, and they will do a whole lot better. Yes, ma'am?
Just real quick, sun or shade or dappled?
With things like oregano and thyme, the more sun the better. With your mints, they're happy in sun or shade. They'll grow almost anywhere. Come on in, I'm sure there's...
Just
there's
looking
place
for a
back here.
seat before I crawl all over people.
Okay, today I'm really going to hit sort of some random topics, and then we can go back and talk about specific things. But we talked a lot about different materials to use in your hardscape, different materials to use in creating your landscape plan. And today the main things I want to cover are just some hints on installation of a lot of different things and of plants, the proper way to plant them, and a bit on the proper way to maintain them. Everybody's panicked right now about water. Channel 4 was out here, just literally in a panic. What are we going to do? We're not going to have landscapes anymore if we go to stage 3. Yes, we are going to have landscapes in stage 3 or stage 4 or anything else, but if you plant properly and then do just a few maintenance things, really these water restrictions are not going to have just a huge impact on you. So those in general are the things that I want to be talking about today. But I want to back up and talk just a little bit, just a few hints of things that we've learned, mistakes that we've made on different aspects, first of all, of the hardscape that you're putting into your landscape, the decks, the walkways, things like that. We talked last week about using the treated wood. We talked about keeping all the wood out of contact with the soil underneath it. Have your legs, have your footings, things like that, sitting on top of a concrete block or something rather than resting on the ground, because that'll really cut down on rotting. That will greatly cut down on termites and things like that. And again, I want to say that termites are a natural occurrence. Come on in, guys. There's more room. That's all right. But, please don't panic and feel like you have to go call an exterminator if you see a termite in your yard. If you pick up a board or old cardboard box or something like that, termites are a normal part of life in South Texas. They are only a problem if they get into your home, if they get into a fence or something like that. And out away from your foundation, if you have termites in a fence or something, those same beneficial nematodes that you get to control fleas, will control termites 100%. If you have a termite mound here and a fire ant mound here, take a stick and go stir both of them up. The problem will take care of itself. Fire ants kill and eat termites by the million. But literally, again, don't let anybody panic you into spending thousands of dollars for termite control for termites that you see in the yard. They're not a problem there, and they're a perfectly normal occurrence. But one other hint on the use of wood, on a deck in particular, and we will one day go back and do the areas here. Yes?
Excuse me, Bob, I hate to interrupt. Is there a Miss O'Donnell here?
Get it unlocked and come back. Okay. But there are a bunch of new fasteners out there. Nails, if you're going to use nails, which are what we've used on a lot of the boards here that you're walking on, but if you're nailing things down with wood, of course use the right kind of nail that won't rust out. But look for either ring shank or screw shank nails. Those of you guys that are carpenters already know this. But ring shank nails will be a nail that you have the point of the nail, and then it has little rings all the way around it. When you drive one in, don't expect to pull it back out. It'll be virtually impossible to pull it out. The nice thing is that your deck boards won't move and work loose. They simply will not move with ring shank nails. Most of your nail guns and things now, you can't necessarily get ring shank nails for, but you can get what they call screw shank, which is the same thing. It's got sort of a spiral along it. And it's not as good at staying in place, but again, just don't use common nails. And if you have an area that's going to be really high traffic, some of the new screws are much, much better. Now, they're not the screw you're thinking of. They don't have a slot head or a Phillips head. Most of them have a little square opening in the top. But everybody says, oh, it'll take too long. Yeah, you can go along with the nail gun and you just go bang, 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 bang. But if you've got a good drill, it's amazing how quickly you can use the screws. And again, that will give you a deck that's really going to stay in place, and boards that won't come up. One last, again, a hint for you non-carpenters: if you're nailing things together, and if you're right at the end of a board, like on this walkway or something, if you're going to drive the nail in, take your hammer and dull the end of the nail, turn the nail upside down and bang it a few times to make the blunt end, or make the pointed end really blunt. When you drive that through the wood, it won't split. You drive that really sharp nail through the wood, a lot of times you'll split it. But if you simply dull the end of the nail, you may have to hit it a little bit harder to get it in. But it's not a big deal, and you won't split the wood. If not, pre-drill the hole and then put a nail or whatever through it. Makes a big difference in ending up with a lot of split wood. In talking about putting down brick and putting down flagstone for decks or for walkways, we talked last week about the extreme importance of staying away from soft brick, staying away from Mexican brick, because it will absorb moisture, it will explode if we have a cold winter. And again, until you've seen a brick just turn to nothing but what looks like a pile of rock salt, you won't believe this. But be sure that you are getting really hard-fired brick if you're going to use it in any kind of landscape building projects. Well, we get a lot of questions about, what do I do if I'm going to lay this in contact with the ground? How do I keep it in place? What kind of soil preparation do I need to do underneath? A lot of that depends on how much traffic an area is going to get and how heavy that traffic is going to be. We chose to use the landscape pavers out of the parking lot. With water restrictions, we haven't kept the grass as green as would be nice to, but just can't manage that. But the more impermeable surface you can avoid in the landscape, the better. We want water to soak in the ground. We don't want it to run off the landscape, run down the street, and cause all those problems. So if you need a place that you can park an RV or a boat or something like that, please consider using something like the paved stones that we've got out front, because they let the water go right through. They're a lot cooler. You can grow grass in little holes in the bricks. They look very nice, and they are just so much better than pouring either asphalt or pouring a concrete slab or anything like that. If you're going to have a lot of heavy traffic, if you're going to use it for a driveway like we've done, you need a hard packed base underneath it. If it's just for occasional use, all on earth you need to do is dig a little deeper, put down about 1 inch of sand, and I like the coarse sand.